up in Oklahoma, I heard a lot of those things that go, you might be a redneck if, but I never really related to those because I grew up in Tulsa, which for those of you who don't know Oklahoma very well, is a city. And when I moved to Connecticut to go to college, a lot of people didn't quite realize that Oklahoma had cities, despite, the existence of like Oklahoma City. So they were sort of under the impression that everyone in Oklahoma was sort of the you might be a redneck if. They would fill that in with, you might be a redneck if you live in Oklahoma. And they thought we all married our cousins and did hoedowns on the weekend and rode our horses to school. But actually, none of that is true at all. And if you read my first book, Golden, you'll see that my main character has similar misconceptions and she sort of gets to see those crashing down as well. But since I don't relate to the you might be a redneck if, I had to sort of invent something of my own. And then I had to ask myself, what do I know? And the answer is pretty clear. Big hair. I really know big hair. So without further ado, I present to you, you might have big hair if. You might have big hair if you can do a relatively convincing impression of Cousin It. Like so. You might have big hair if it's your #1 defense against the cold. You might have big hair if your room is a ponytail holder graveyard. You might have big hair if you can knock a man unconscious with but one of your pigtails. You might have big hair if you watch the Miss America pageant and think, wow, how do they get their hair so flat? You might have big hair if the idea of volumizing shampoo scares the crap out of you. You might have big hair if you took a time machine back to the 80s and had to wear your hair in a side ponytail, you'd end up walking around all the time going like this. You might have big hair if people are always trying to convince you to go as Princess Leia for Halloween. So you might have big hair if your baby pictures kind of look like Surrey Cruise. I thought I'd close out my top 10 with a little story. Not exactly a fable, just, an illustration. But this one time, I was at a party, like a family friend's party, and this guy who used to babysit for me brought his baby daughter over and let me hold her, and I was holding her, and I was a little skeptical, because, babies usually see the hair, and they're like, ooh, hair, see hair, must eat hair, want hair. And so I'm holding the baby, and instead of trying to eat my hair or bury her fists in it, she just sort of lifts up her hand, and she's like, oh, she's going like this, and everyone's like, oh, how nice, look how gentle Sloan is with the hair. And then her dad turned to me and said, oh, you've been teaching her how to pet the dog. So, long story short, if you've ever had that happen, you just might have big hair.